I am live with Frost, and I'm gonna say just a little bit before I do my official intro because there are a few minutes left, and who knows, people might come right at 7. But this person is very interesting, and he became even more interesting when I tried to do some background work and learn about him. Because I don't know how we even connected. Maybe it was through Mark from ETV, not ETV Pod, from Ultraviolet Pod. Mark Edwards, maybe.
Probably. Yeah, no, that sounds like, yeah, I mean, he's kind of a nexus for a lot of people meeting interesting
Hmm.
people, especially through Twitter. Pretty active on Twitter. And I
Yeah.
have just in the last couple of years become more active. So yeah, that's cool.
Okay. That must be it, man. I don't know, but and I meet most of my guests through Twitter, and I was like, man, what the heck is going on here? Bullshido, what is this thing? So before I just saw you on Twitter, and you'd make some comments, but we didn't really communicate that much. So then I said, man, this is really an interesting cat, and I can't wait to talk with you. So it's 7. So let me introduce you here. So my name is Rod Graham, and this is another installment of my Being series. And for those who come across this either now or later on the interwebs, let me explain what I'm doing here with this series. So the idea is to find interesting people and learn how they came to be. Right. So you got to be interesting, and Frost is interesting.
I'll
And then on
take that.
top of that, I want to get a sense of how they think about the world. So it's a combination of learning about them and then also about some of their opinions on some of the topics of the day. So that's what we got today. And the title of this one is Being Frost. So, Frost,
Hmm.
why are you the world's most dangerous nerd?
So to answer that question, because I know we're going to get into topics of masculinity and stuff at some
Mhm.
point, to answer that question would violate one of the apparently cardinal laws of masculinity, at least according to memes and like Facebook shirts about masculinity themed targeted at those guys. Something to the effect of, well, a lion doesn't have to tell people he's a lion. So, but
I see.
I know that's
I
not a
see.
helpful answer.
No,
So,
no, I get it. I get it. So if I'm around you enough, then I'll go, you know what? That guy, he's he's the world's most dangerous nerd. Is that what would
I
happen?
would hope so. I mean, so for background for people that have no idea who I am, which is fair.
Uh-huh.
They
Yeah,
uh got my start on the internet. Like actually, the first things I did was I was writing for like GameSpy or just some online stuff, and I was into martial arts, and then we one way or another stumbled into creating this website about martial arts and BS, and called Bullshido, and one thing led to another, and it kind of evolved into the world's largest fight club. So, yeah, which I guess would make me a sort of real life Tyler Durden. That on my background side, I am a medical laboratory scientist. I am also a U.S. Army infantryman and an instructor. So I do that part time for a reserve component, and so I mean, I think all of those things kind of go to that. I have an 0-2 MMA record, which I don't normally like brag.
yeah.
Obviously, I don't brag about that, but if you look really hard on YouTube, you can find a great video of me being completely out of shape and just getting pounded into the ground. I mean, it was bad. They even did a slow mo of the guy like kneeing my ribs. But yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of those things kind of come together, and somebody made that throwaway comment like years ago, and I just like, you know what, I'm gonna stick with it. I have a bad habit of doing that. James Lindsay actually, uh, he was trying to be snarky about it, but he said he replied to something I said, or he quote tweeted me and
Mhm.
said the state of masculinity today. So for a while I've been just sitting on changing out that world's most dangerous nerd to quote the state of masculinity today, James Lindsay. So.
Well, uh, it's very weird because James Lindsay is the guy who plays around with swords, and he's really got
Yes.
a dad bod. I don't know if he's a father or not, but he certainly
No, no,
has a
no.
dad bod.
James Lindsay and Bullshido, our organization, have history because also if you dig far back enough, he has his own little blog or it's still up there somewhere. It's like called Becoming the Lion, actually. And he was complaining about our website and how our forums basically call out him and his martial art style for not sparring. And so it was an entire rant about how you don't really need to spar to be good at fighting, to be a credible fighter. And that's just kind of the opposite of how anything works, and which is hilarious for somebody that kind of had, at least a while ago, positioned himself as one of the arbiters of scientific credibility, and one of these people that were gatekeeping what is and is not a credible academic paper for a hot minute there.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, so there's a lot here. First, I want to ask you a little bit more about James Lindsay, and then I want to go back and comment on your very varied life experiences. So first, so James Lindsay, I didn't know this, had a blog where he was writing about martial arts, or what was he doing?
Yeah, no, he practiced some form of martial arts. I forget which one. It's very Tai Chi like. I forget the specific name, but it's and that's where that sword video comes. He was just doing a form demonstration that everybody laughs at. But yeah, in his driveway, totally dad bod, which okay. Yeah, okay. It's hilarious, and you can clown on him if you want, but the real thing that you can criticize him about is that he literally complained about Bullshido and other sites where there were people that trained actively like we did, and saying that you can only be a credible fighter if you actively spar, you pressure test whether or not you actually know what you're doing. And so his whole screed on that blog post was the opposite of that. It's like, no, you don't need to actually have contact sparring in order to be a good at fighting. And that's something we ran into a lot over the years, and it was a common argument with people that really just never wanted to get hit in the face, but they also wanted to be taken seriously as dangerous dudes. So
that's interesting. I can't imagine any kind of activity where if you don't actually do the thing, you don't really know how good you are at. I mean, anyone can get in a batting cage and hit some fastballs. Actually, no. But but it's easier to do it than if you're on a baseball diamond and a real pitcher's throwing. So I mean, I don't know. It seems just weird that he would make that argument. But look, man, I gotta say, I now have more respect for James Lindsay, because I thought he was just a dude playing with swords. I didn't know that he actually was putting some of that into practice. So I have a little bit more respect for him.
Yeah, he's trained in martial arts for years. Apparently, before Twitter, or before he got on Twitter, and like somewhere around when he was trying to be a new atheist, he had been training in martial arts, and I guess he was also a massage therapist.
Yes, I knew about that.
So I mean, that whatever, legitimate career. I mean, make people suffer less, cool, whatever. Not criticizing him for that, but he just pretty serious about martial arts, and just that was his thing. So
okay, so now you mentioned a little bit about your background, and you said a couple of things which on the surface they seem to not go together, right? But maybe they do, or it doesn't matter whether they do or not, but it just makes you a very interesting person. So you mentioned medical laboratory scientist.
Yes.
Okay, and then not Army Ranger. You're in the infantry in the Army.
Yeah, that's my occupational specialty is infantry.
Okay, so are you retired? You're a reservist, or you're in the Army now?
Yeah, I'm in a reserve. I'm in the National Guard. Actually, I'm an instructor for the National Guard. So I'm the guy that gets to shape all the recruits and just get them all packaged up and send them off to basic training, not being as incompetent as they could be. So
look,
it's fun.
Yes, I would imagine. I mean, I guess it would be fun. I did not like the military, but it seems like the people who were trying to train me were having fun. I'll put it that way.
Hell, I didn't know you were ex-military. That's cool.
Oh man, I hated it. I was the worst soldier in the world. But look, I've been binge watching Naked and Afraid. Can you teach me some survival skills so I can go out and stay in the African savannah for 3 weeks? And
yeah, bring a gun. That's
you can't do that.
Kind of our solution to everything. And if that gun doesn't work, bring a bigger gun.
I see.
a javelin, maybe even. So,
Okay.
other than that, I'm. They don't really teach us a lot. There's a couple survival skills courses in the Army. There's Arctic
Mhm.
and then there's SEER, which is the survival escape resistance, and basically it's a POW school.
Mhm.
They teach you how to escape, and then they capture you and basically make you suffer. So see if you can endure it. So, and I spent years begging to get to go to one of those schools, and they're like, "No, shut up, shut up, go away." So yeah, no, I don't want to make anyone get the wrong impression that I am some sort of high speed ranger or anything like that. No, I'm not that cool, and I don't need to go through that. Man, those dudes go through some pain to
Yeah.
earn that ranger
I bet.
tab, and just a couple hours sleep a night for 2 months straight. And I think there was even a documentary that followed a couple of them where one dude was like pouring Tabasco sauce in his eyeballs to stay awake because sleep deprived. You just got to keep going, and I don't need that wear and tear. I got enough of it already. So
Yeah. Oh, and also, so yeah, you got the Army, you got the, and then also you, I mean, to get in the, so I don't follow MMA. I don't find it that interesting really, but
yeah.
that seems like some scary stuff. And you got in the ring twice at least. I mean, who does
Yeah.
that? I mean, not many people in the world are going to do that. So that's really amazing.
Funny story. The first my first fight, I had actually bought a ticket and it was sitting there, and I'd been training for about 6 months with a fight team that had people in the event. And the coach comes up to me. I actually had front row seats. It was a small time event, so it wasn't a big deal. But my coach comes up and is like, "Hey, this guy's opponent didn't show up. You want to fight?" I'm like, "Okay." And so yeah, I got completely destroyed. It was great. I think I landed a kick.
Uh-huh.
I think I landed a kick. The dude I fought, his name is Joe Maben, and I think he went on to be like a Kansas City PD internal affairs cop. He was a monster. I mean, I mean, shredded, just beast dude. And so I knew I was going to lose. So I was just like, I'm going to try. And I swung at him a few times, landed a leg kick, and then it all went downhill from there. So, but it was great. It's good times. I mean, I did
Yes.
it. So
Yeah. That's cool, man. All right. So let me ask you this, and let me give a little backdrop. So it seems to me that people who invest a lot in not in learning something or doing something, it becomes a metaphor for other things in their life. Like they're always finding relationships, So someone could ask me, how does sociology explain the world? And I say, well, and then I'll go in some kind of story or something, connecting it to things in my life, this kind of thing. So that's why I'm asking you this, So how do the martial arts, Frost, explain the world?
I like this question. I really do. Because like as you obviously know, in sociology, you have lenses that you can look at the world through,
Mm,
and so that's one of the reasons why Bullshido we kind of expanded on just from calling out BS in the martial arts to health and fitness, et cetera, because we realize that things either work or they don't. It's like a very, very simple empiricism kind of approach to things. Is like
mm,
if you claim you can do something, okay, let's falsify the null hypothesis in that. And in the martial arts world, that's okay. You claim you can fight. Well, let's see. Put on some gloves, put a mouthpiece in,
yeah,
or
test it.
don't.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and we did that. That's why we started that. What we were calling them throwdowns, but yeah, it was basically an informal fight club. We had stuff on like 4 different continents. It was wild. Um, so yeah, if you look at the martial arts at the world through like a lens of that, then there's so many things that applies to. We now approach the topic of educating people as self-defense against BS, because we live in a world where people are just bombarded with information. There's just so much out there, and if you don't know how to watch out for the dudes that are swinging for your head to try to get you to do crap that's not in your best interest, to get you to believe things that are going to get you to work against what you should be doing for yourself, then if you don't know how to defend against that, then you're going to be put on the mat. A better way of putting it, you're going to be put in the Capitol on to try and stop the inauguration, or overthrow government, or telling people not to, or yelling at nurses trying to get people vaccinated, or all kinds of things like that. So yeah, the martial arts is a great way to frame an approach to keeping people from being victims in multiple forms. So that's why we kind of pitch it as we're teaching people self-defense against BS.
That's really interesting. I find sports in general, or any type of competition, and the people who succeed in it to be wonderful role models for other areas of life, because those things are hard, and you got to have discipline. You got to have a little bit of courage and bravery to attempt it. You got to be comfortable with failing. And I find that, in my, humdrum job as a professor, that those things still do matter. Discipline,
Yes.
being able to fail, competing, putting yourself out there, so, I mean, just in general, sports is a wonderful, sports can explain success, I guess, in other areas of life. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, as suffering reveals character, but we don't want to live in a world where everyone's defined by their suffering. So, I mean, sports are a great way to experience suffering and loss, where it's controlled. It's not that bad. You lost a game, okay, man. I mean, you didn't lose a parent, you didn't lose, a limb. You lost a game. So, I mean, it teaches you to cope with the way life will come at you, because life's there's no sense to the universe. It's completely absurd. It's arbitrary. You can't look at it through a I hate the just world theory, the idea that, people get what they deserve. And if you play sports, on some level, you learn that lesson. Like, I worked so
That's
hard.
right. You don't get what you deserve.
No,
that's true.
I mean, you could train every day and still lose, because it doesn't matter. Sometimes the ball just bounces weird. So
yeah, that's true. And I think it's like that in all areas of life. It's just more apparent in sports. In any occupation, you could bust your ass. Wow, I rarely use profanity. What's happening?
Sorry, I'm a bad influence.
Somewhat clean cut, but yeah, I mean, you can bust your butt, and then all of a sudden, you still don't get what you thought you're gonna get, and you got to know how to handle those things, So yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
okay.
thinking there's an actual Star Trek episode, Next Generation, where Picard's like, you can do everything right and still lose. That's not that's just life. That's just how it is.
That's just how it is. Yeah, gotta learn how to deal with it. Well, you mentioned Bullshido. Is it Bullshido or Bullshido?
Bullshido. So
Bullshido.
It's derived from the Japanese code of the samurai, Bushido, and then obviously bullshit. So yeah, so Bullshido. At least that's how we've been saying it for like 20 years now. So whatever, it sticks.
Well, describe it. What's it about? You kind of hinted at it a little bit already.
It started as a community where we're just a bunch of dudes that actively train in martial arts, mixed martial arts, combat sports, that kind of thing. We're fed up because I don't know, people probably don't remember this since the UFC has kind of given the general public an idea of what an actual fight between two talented and trained people looks like. But before that, we only had boxing and maybe like pro wrestling for people to go off of, and scripted movies and things like Steven Seagal flicks where he's doing all this arm wavy nonsense. And so
wait, that's nonsense?
Oh yeah, Aikido is just garbage. I'm sorry. I mean, it's cool-ish in a way, and the pants are awesome looking, man. But no, as far as an effective fighting style, the little bit of history of Aikido, it was founded by a total hippie cultist from Japan that believed in some weird, wild stuff. And so he took Japanese jiu-jitsu and basically got rid of all the completely useful stuff and just made it very hyper gentle and pacifist, which is nice in a way. But I mean, the whole point of learning how to fight is to learn how to fight. So
Aikido, you said?
Yes, Aikido, Aikido.
Okay. So I mean, I cut you off. You were rolling, and I jumped in with
just
Steven Seagal thing.
Yeah, I mean, so people had this ridiculous idea about, but this is again before the UFC had this idea about what a fight was supposed to look like and what constituted a good fight. I mean, the 80s were like filled with dudes that were pretending to be ninjas, and I mean, there's several of them, and we ended up, and that just kept on going all the way through the 90s. And so when we started, rolling with what we're doing, we ended up running straight into some of those guys, like Frank Dukes, who was the subject of the movie Bloodsport, which is completely made up and none of that is true. The Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, none of that happened, none of it. And then there was another guy, he went by the name Ashita Kim, but the guy's real name was Radford Davis, and he lived in like a trailer park in Florida. But he had been selling ninja manuals since like the 80s. I mean, tons of people that are into the martial arts that were alive back then probably have them on their shelves. It's like Ninja Secrets of Invisibility and this and that. And so he had a $10,000 challenge where it was like, oh, well, I can defeat anybody. Just put up $10,000. So one of our members who was, kind of, rolling in money, literally took a picture of a stacks of cash on his desk, $10,000 in cash, bank, wrappers, etc. Like, let's go. And then the excuses came out and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of how we got our start, and just it rolled into that. We just started, people was like, hey, I don't believe you. You're full of crap. And so we people would get together and show up and spar, sometimes actually fight. There were a couple broken noses, no serious injuries, just a lot of pride.
Okay. So, all right. And then so the site or the forum, the group started by debunking some of this weird, Hollywood stuff. Oh, you know what? Before I keep going with that, I think so. All right, we all remember crushes, TV crushes. I say we. I remember some of my TV crushes, and one of them was Cynthia Rothrock.
Yeah.
Now, was she like the real deal? That person?
That's a complicated question to answer because karate is a mixed bag of martial arts. It's a very high impact, power delivering style on purpose. So I'm sure in a karate competition, she would have done great. I mean, whether it was a full contact one, I don't know. I don't know the extent of how much she actually trained, but I remember Cynthia Rothrock, and she had some pretty cool, interesting movies and stuff. And it was good to see a realistic woman kicking ass on screen, if nothing else. So, she's still around. That's awesome.
Yeah. I just had to look her up and see.
Oh, she looks great because she can't be that young anymore. But
when I remember,
no, I remember her being redheaded, but So no, that's good.
And redhead, okay.
And that's cool because she was representing women in martial arts, and then because for a period there was like this, I don't know, I think it was Joss Whedon that you could blame for it. They call it waif fu, where it's like these 90-pound women were like just doing all kinds of like just beating dudes up left and right, and I'm like defying the laws of physics. And so we actually had an article a couple years back published by a female kickboxer, one member of our site, who called it the waif washing of Hollywood. And then we have gotten away from that. There were people like Gina Carano and oh man, I can't name her, but she's like my favorite sci-fi character like right now. The character is Marine Gunnery Sergeant Bobby Draper from The Expanse. I think.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's so good. I don't think she comes in until like the second season, but I mean, she's real. I think she's pushing 6 foot tall. She looks like she will mess you up. I mean, and she's clearly feminine, and there's no confusion. She's representing, women kicking ass, and it's awesome. She's hard as hell. It's pretty cool.
She's not a model playing a tough woman. She's an actual athlete. Okay.
Who has some credentials. Apparently she's boxed a little bit too. So, so that's good. I mean, and so, I mean, we're way off the topic, but Cynthia Rothrock, remember that. So
yes, we are.
I wouldn't say she was full of crap. I wouldn't. Yeah. So I'm agnostic on that, but some of the movies that we're in and the fight scenes are hyper choreographed. So that's not realistic, but it was the 80s. Everybody was on drugs.
Okay. All right. Well, you just took me down memory lane. That's all. So, So you started with the sort of critiquing, this Hollywood type of stuff, and you said, you know what, this art of Bullshido can be applied to other areas of life, not just martial arts. Okay.
Yeah. We eventually kind of realized, I mean, we might as well fly the mission accomplished banner on our aircraft carrier and say, okay, people got the hint. The only people that are still doing all this stuff are the kind of, people on the extreme fringes that believe in things like throwing chi bolts at people and knocking them out, and just the real weirdos. So our job in that was basically done. So we started looking into more things like that overlap our interests, with stuff like fitness supplements and like personal training that's ridiculous, and like diet plans and that sort of thing. And there's just so much nonsense in that, and because it's almost like a completely unregulated industry. I mean, there's a few things here and there, but I mean, almost to some extent, the regulation stops at as long as you write this product is not intended to treat any disease or health condition on your bottle of like wood shavings that you're selling as, man plus, brain explosion or whatever. I'm not naming any names like, podcasters or guys that would do that. But
I know, but I'm on it, so I'll tell you about it.
Yeah.
I tried. I think some of his I think it was Alpha Brain or something like that.
Alpha Brain,
yeah. But I'm well aware that those things aren't FDA approved.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going in it with my eyes open and just trying it. As long as it doesn't hurt me, which I don't know until after I take it. But anyway, I tried it. There's
once actually
twice. I'm not sure.
Good site called Labdoor. It's an independent group apparently that does laboratory testing for like trace minerals and contaminants and stuff on a lot of supplements out there. And while they don't have everything in there, I don't think they have any Onnit products. They do rate them as, this is accurate for what it's saying it has, like this much caffeine or this much, I don't know, whatever you're looking for, fish oil, whatever. So there are independent places that you can get results from. So I mean, I throw that out there. I get nothing from Labdoor. I don't even think they know I exist, but stuff like that is useful for people. So I just want them to know about it.
That's great, man. So if I wanted to try to take something that's I see on Amazon or something, then I can check out Labdoor and see what they've said about it.
Yeah. If they've got a review on it, it's because a couple of years back, a lot of people don't remember this, but I think mid 2000s there was this scandal. A lot of protein powder coming over from overseas was adulterated with melamine, which falsely increases the amount of the protein when you test it. It elevates it, but it's not actual protein. Your body can't do anything with it. It's literally the same substance that's in magic erasers. So if you want to clean your cabinets and stuff, melamine, it's not good for you. They were adulterating protein powders with it, and dog food especially, and a bunch of pets died. I don't know if any people actually got seriously injured, but yeah, it was bad.
Wow. Okay. All right. Now, let's put a bow on Bullshido here. And I hope that those who see this now and in the future, check it out. It's a wonderful site. It's well designed. And there's a lot of information there. I mean, there's like history there. And you told me you've been doing this for a couple of decades now. So, I mean, there's a lot to read through, and you can learn a whole lot. So I encourage people to go check that out. Now let's switch gears a little bit. And let me ask you about toxic masculinity. What is it to you, and how do we deal with it?
I mean, I think we know that there's probably an academic definition of that, but the way I explain it to people, because I've seen arguments on both sides of this whole topic, and a lot of people are misunderstanding that on both sides, that masculinity itself is toxic, and it's not. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that think anything that conforms to a gender norm is toxic in a way. And okay, we can have that discussion, but it's one of those things, as far as I'm concerned, that where the dose makes the poison. So if you're going way out of your way, I mean, even water can kill you if you take enough of it. So if you drink enough water, you overhydrate, you flush out all the electrolytes, and your system just stops working. So if you're so going out of your way to assert that you're a masculine, manly man, you've got the fancy barbecue grill, you've got the truck, you've got your entire identity is wrapped up in that, you
Those
are going to,
huge trucks that look like
oh
mobile
man.
homes. Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Austin, Texas. So you know, that's yeah, you almost get issued one when you come down here, but it's if you go out of your way, then you're going to be anything that infringes on that, that kind of checks you, is going to prompt a hostile reaction. Anybody that, if you're so worried about your image, putting forward that thing is like, yeah, I'm a manly man, blah 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 blah, and I chop my own wood with, you know, an axe that I sharpened just this morning. You're going to be hyper defensive, and you're probably going to lash out at people if, you know, they call it into question. So that's absolutely toxic. I like to distinguish between toxic masculinity and fragile masculinity, kind of for that reason, because the underlying problem is dudes that think they need to go out of their way, and they're not real men unless they do this, or this. And no, I mean, you identify as a man, you're doing what you feel is man shit. Just do your shit, man. Don't stress out about it. We're so wrapped up in brand identities that, you know, we take it to such an extreme level that, yeah, people punching holes in drywall just to prove that they're a dude. I'm like,
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. That's too much. I mean, that's just some insecurity going on there.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I think so. So when I think about toxic masculinity, it's generally where, in a way, which I like the way you said, the dose makes the poison. Um, so I agree with that, but there are specific things that someone might be doing, right? And they're doing too much of it, right? So so being competitive is nice, but don't go crazy, right? Don't always
Yeah.
try to win everything. Don't always try to be the top dog, the alpha male. I mean, I don't know, that's a little too much, right? It's cool to be stoic sometimes. I actually like that. I don't know why people. You also said something that I think is important. People at one time, it meant, the way I'm discussing it, like an just over performance of masculinity,
Yeah.
right? But now people just seem to equate being a man with being toxic, which is very problematic. So yeah, I mean, you got the hyper competitiveness, you got the stoicism, which I think is cool. Actually, you need that in some stressful situations, but you don't want to go crazy. You know, if your pops died, go ahead and let out a tear. You know, don't go
Yeah.
crazy with it. You know, and that's how I kind of see toxic masculinity, and I think, yeah, it can be very harmful.
Yeah, I agree.
So
They a couple years back, the APA, American Psychological Association, actually listed stoicism as an example of toxic masculinity, and a lot of people were kind of unhappy with that because, I mean, it's a legitimate philosophy that, and it doesn't tell you to just. Okay, backing up a second, the popular conception of stoicism is that I'm just going to hold it all down and you're never going to see my face. You know, I am, you know, one of Leonidas's 300 Spartans, and I'm just, yeah. No, stoicism is just having enough perspective on the situation to process your emotions in a way that's rational. Like Marcus Aurelius's kind of point was, his main point, if you just want to like dumb it down to crayon, you know, drawing level, it's like, you don't really need to worry about anything, because if you can do something about it, then do it, and you don't need to worry about it. And B, if you can't do anything about it, then worrying about it doesn't help at all. So don't worry about it. So
wait a minute, is Marcus Aurelius Jesus Christ? Like, isn't that, you know, but God help me with, you know, I forgot the Lord's thing when you do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of prefer the philosophy of one or the other, but I don't want to, you know.
No, but I mean, but these are just words of wisdom. I mean, if one wise person said it, and another wise person is going to stumble upon it too. Yeah. But I mean, that's it. You know, the wisdom thing. Help me change the things I can. Give me the wisdom to know the difference. You know, that type of thing.
Same damn thought. Yeah. I mean, get wisdom where you can, even if it's on the back of a coffee cup, whatever. I mean, life's hard, so whatever helps you cope with it.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know the ism of stoicism, but to me, just being able to control your emotions is very helpful in many situations. I mean, just straight up. I mean, so I mean, to me, saying that being stoic is just by itself bad is problematic, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Oh, and another thing about the toxic masculinity is the objectification of women. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and to me, it was always the hyper, like, I mean, come on, if you find a chick looks nice, and maybe even saying chick is a bad thing. So a girl, if you find a girl looks nice and you feel that way, you should be able to express that, but you don't want to be a jerk, about those kind of things. So yeah, if it's too much, then that's when it becomes toxic. That's someone's mother, sister, and all this type of thing. So, yeah. Well, how do we deal with this toxic masculinity?
I mean, I think we need to. That's a lot to unpack because
Mm-hmm.
it exists at like all levels of our culture, and people are bombarded with messages about this and that all day long. Advertisements for trucks and like, because it's a commodity now. It's a brand to sell to people. You sell people the image of masculinity.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I brought up Facebook, but yeah, I am, just because of my demographic, middle-aged white dude, decent, income, is they just throw stuff at me left and right. It's like, hey, here's a flannel shirt. I think the latest one was like, here's like, these axes. Like literally they're selling me axes. So I live in the burbs, man. I have used an axe in the last year, but that's because a tornado knocked over a tree. So it's just
Look,
and that
Phrost,
kind of thing.
Phrost, I have a career move for you.
Okay.
I do. Because I'm telling you, man, you are a kind of a prototype. Like you would be a first round. Okay, so you got the bald head, you got the kind of gravelly voice a little bit, you got the MMA background. You got I'm not only in the military, I instruct people in the military. I mean, you got all this stuff going on. Just put your face out there and sell some tactical gear or something, man. That's all you got to do.
No, I mean, we thought about doing some parody stuff.
Really?
The last t-shirt we occasionally we sell a t-shirt on Bullshido, but the last one was like this baby blue shirt with like just basically Times New Roman font that says, "This is my fighting shirt." So I mean, so we're
all right. You don't want to go in that direction. I'm just trying.
No.
I'm just saying, man. You should let me be your agent or something. Sell some soap, some tactical soap. Make sure it's green, like
I
camouflage.
think that exists. I mean, there's tactical everything.
Yeah,
I swear. There's what is it? There's tactical. There's dude wipes. I saw that. I was like looking for baby wipes because you can clean an AR-15 with them. They work really well. So but yeah, there's like dude wipes. They're gendered body wipes out there. It's a brand you can buy.
I'm telling you, man. You could do it, man. You are the prototype of what could sell those products. So. I'm
tactical supplements. No, I think that's a thing. Oh, Jocko Wilnick has his own line of supplements, and that dude's like legitimate Navy SEAL. So I can't compete with that.
All right. Well, are you body positive? What do you think about all that?
Okay. Let's approach this. There's two different ways of approaching this. Respect for the dignity of the people that are suffering, because I like to put it that way, from obesity, because they are suffering. There's respect for dignity, and there's a respect for the actual evidence to say that obesity is an actual health condition that people suffer from. It is a suboptimal amount of adipose tissue on your body. So absolutely, people should be positive about their choices and their lives, but that doesn't mean you just stop at that point any more than, and I'm going to get flack for this, than you would be cancer positive. I am proud to have cancer. It's a thing. It's a health condition. It needs to be treated one way or another, because you are, whether you're in denial about it or not, suffering from it to an extent. You're not living your best life, as the saying goes. So if you treat people with dignity, then it becomes easier to have that conversation. But I don't think a lot of people in the conversation even want to address that it's a problem in the first place. Then that's where the, what is it, healthy at every size movement comes on, HAES.
I
And
didn't
those
know about
guys,
that.
yeah, no, that's a thing. And the majority of them are very morbidly obese. They still deserve our dignity and respect as human beings. However, anytime obesity is pushed as this is a public health crisis we need to address, the pushback is that no, it's not. That's the subtext of the pushback. No, it's not. I can live just as much of a healthy life as you, and I'm sorry, but you can't. Your body is not. You're not designed to carry that much, an extra 100 pounds of weight, whether it's muscle or fat. It's just bad on the joints. It increases stress on your cardiovascular system. Adipose tissue, like, which I'm saying in lieu of the word fat, to try and be a little bit more tactful here, is it disrupts your endocrine system. It creates inflammatory conditions in your body. And there's a whole cascade of negative health consequences from the condition of obesity. The problem is people on the other side that are really enthusiastically pointing out that it's a problem. Guys like, I guess even today, Ben Shapiro, etc. Those people are taking glee in the fact that, oh, look, here's yet another underclass. Here's this group of people we can demonize. They they're subhuman because they have this condition, and I absolutely reject that. So you have to walk a fine line between those two sorts of things. You're not trying to demonize people. You need to address the fact that, unlike what the Ben Shapiro's and that whole wing of like the culture war would want you to think, it is not a matter of individual willpower or volition. That is absolutely the lowest factor, the lowest level of all the confluence of factors that cause the obesity problem. And it's really it's a systemic policy issue. It's the fact that we don't, from all the way up to the FDA, the food pyramid is utter garbage. I mean, for years, the sugar industry was basically buying off regulators.
Oh, that's right. I read something about that.
So our diet is,
yeah. So like that pyramid at the bottom,
yes,
where it's all we're supposed to be eating all those grains and stuff. That's not
grains.
Correct, right? Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, it is if you want to sell grains because you got a whole industry of farmers that depend on that. But maybe that's not the best for long-term health. And it's not even necessarily the grains, because the federal government gives out like millions of dollars in corn subsidies to grow extra corn. And so because of that, it creates an incentive for companies trying to turn a profit on selling their non-necessarily sweet foods like regular bread to add a little bit extra high fructose corn syrup into the bread, into the freaking ketchup, into like literally like anything you can think of that's processed food has got unnecessary additive sweeteners. When Europeans come over to the United States, they're like, what is this? This isn't bread. This is like a cake. So yeah, I mean, if it was just regular bread, like you get at a bakery, like in the 1800s, whatever, as long as it didn't have sawdust in it, and it's probably not that bad to even maybe be at the bottom of the food pyramid, especially if you're taking into consideration not everybody has access to fresh fruit and vegetables, meat or those sorts of things. So, I mean, that's okay. But the way we have the system set up right now, it's absolutely not. Oh, and I see Sam join in the chat. I don't know if you saw that. So what's up, man?
Oh, Sam.
Yeah.
What's up, brother? Yeah. Okay. So I like what you said about separating out the worth of the individual from get out of that. The worth of the individual from the actual condition. I also so that's true. That's true. And I also like the way that you talk about the excess adipose tissue instead of maybe using denigrating words. Which I think is real cool. Now, how do you address the person who might say, well, come on now, look at this. My BMI is, they're saying because of my BMI, I'm unhealthy and blah, blah, blah. This BMI thing is wrong. And How do you, respond to that?
Again, the whole, it's such a mess. The whole topic is hard to sift through the nonsense, because BMI is not a great, it's been misused by doctors for a while now. It's not supposed to be an individual metric. It's a population level metric. It's to measure the overall like body
I get
mass
that.
of the population. So
I
when
get
it's
that.
applied to an individual, individuals are individuals. Some
Uh-huh.
people are like beefier than others. I mean, if you look at the BMI, and this is like the standard go-to example to debunk that. I mean, The Rock is like morbidly obese. The Rock, Dwayne,
Yes.
Lats for Days Johnson
Yes.
is obese. So that's you can't really apply it. So those people have a great point. On the other hand, I'm trying not to say this in a mean way. Most people who are obese are not The Rock. Most
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
fall under that category of the BMI, which is inappropriately applied to them nonetheless, are not just straight up the shredded beef muscle. So they're again, it's one of those things that it's difficult to have an earnest conversation about, because a lot of people just don't want to look at this dispassionately. It's
Yeah.
hard.
That's true. That's true.
It's really hard.
Anytime you're, and I fall victim to this too. So anytime your identity is wrapped up in a conversation, or you feel you are an ally to people of that identity, then your acumen goes down. It's like you stop. It's like you can't look at different ideas. You can't entertain them because it may threaten that your identity or the identity of the group you ally with. So we know a lot of people who may be obese or overweight, or we may be obese or overweight, and we go, well, gosh, what narrative do I want? Do I want the narrative that says that, okay, you know what, this is something that needs to be addressed, or be proud of who you are?
Yeah.
By the way, I should say, one argument would be that, okay, what the body positivity movement does is it allows people to exercise. So there's a little wrinkle in here. So the idea could be, if you feel comfortable in your body, then you'll go to the gym and you'll exercise. So
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
yeah, yeah,
I have, I mean, for years, I am like, man, I see that giant, super overweight dude on the treadmill. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I want to thank him, but I don't want to embarrass him. And I
right,
have,
right.
it's been a while. I bought my own home gym stuff when the pandemic happened, because I mean, yeah, I literally play with the virus at work. I'm not trying to be, patient, zero or whatever. I'm not trying to kill people, but when I was in the gym, I would kind of keep an eye out for somebody bullying. Thankfully, it never happened. I never had to have a conversation with somebody about that. But I swear to God, man, if I see somebody exercising and then somebody else is like giving them grief or, trying to shame them, oh God, that would not go well for that person. I would definitely intervene.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I mean, I guess maybe immature people might do that, but
Yeah,
not
teenagers.
adults in a gym or something. Okay. What is your opinion of Joe Rogan? So that's open. You could say whatever. You're wide open. Opinion on anything. What
Joe
what do you
Rogan.
think about the guy?
I am not one of those guys that'll tell you Joe Rogan is the devil and he's the responsible for the downfall of Westerns, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Joe Rogan's a comedian. Joe Rogan is an entertainer. Joe Rogan has a huge audience. And yes, he has a significant amount of influence over like people who look like me. So that is something that needs to be addressed. It needs to, people are right to check, to push back, like as a group, when he's out there doing things like, making people question the efficacy of vaccines, or
I mean, that was bad, man.
yeah, that's absolutely bad. And
I mean, people could do killing. I mean, it's not him himself, but I mean, he's influencing a lot of
yeah,
people with bad
no,
information. Yeah.
I said this on, I think it was the Guru's pod. I do think Joe Rogan has a body count because of the vaccine thing. But he has always been that kind of guy. He hasn't changed. He just, for a few years there, because I've kind of kept an eye on him over the years. Back in the day, he had forums. A lot of people don't remember this, but back before social media was a thing, Joe Rogan had his own forums, and then we had our own forums, and we shared a lot of the same members. So there's a huge bit of overlap, and I'm pretty sure he's mentioned our group on his podcast like a dozen times or so from back in the day, because old school internet was a lot smaller then. So, but he has always leaned towards those. The sort of the stoner conspiracy theories is like, hey man, did you know that the government is putting and so like a more mellow Alex Jonesy kind of thing, which is why he's in that sphere. He's like, the moon landing was fake. His jiu-jitsu mentor, right? Because Joe Rogan's a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. His jiu-jitsu mentor is Eddie Bravo, and Eddie Bravo genuinely believes the moon landing was a hoax, and that is his whole brand is 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, because he believes in the conspiracy about the unidentified planet Nibiru, whatever. That's an old one, yeah. I forget the guy's name that put it. Just some crank wannabe what was it? Anyway, astronomer guy said that, yeah, there's a planet that we're not identifying, and it's just in a counter revolution to Earth, and it's whatever, the evidence is in the stars, and but he believes in that, named his whole school after, his jiu-jitsu school after it. So yeah, he's in that sphere, which had not been a problem. It's just like, Art Bell from, Coast to Coast AM, late night trucker radio about dudes calling in saying they got abducted by aliens. It's almost endearing. It was like cute. It was harmless back in the day. And then, but when there's a pandemic, no, man, that's not the time to be skeptical about the people who are begging you to do the right thing to keep other people from dying, to try and keep somebody's grandma who's battling cancer from, catching a sniffles that's going to turn her lungs into pudding. Man, just fucking dial it back a little bit.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'm a little conflicted with Joe Rogan, because on the one hand, so he is influential, and in a strange way, him and Dan Carlin influenced me. I was watching a podcast, and they were talking about how they struggled so much with things, especially Dan Carlin. I had a bit more admiration for Dan Carlin. He's a podcast. If you don't know Dan Carlin,
is that the hardcore history guy?
That's the hardcore history guy.
Yeah, no, I love his stuff. I mean, I don't know how
he's the godfather of podcast.
He is freaking great, man. He goes into that. He is excellent.
Yes. And so, and early on, he would be on Joe Rogan's podcast. I haven't seen him in a while, but he did like 2 or 3 early ones. And anyway, they got into this back and forth about how they failed so much. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was driving home to South Carolina. So this is like a road to Carolina moment for me in a way. I just had inspiration and got inspiration. So I'm driving, and they were just talking about, I'm listening to them, and they were talking about how they're failing. But you gotta try. You gotta keep going. And I was like, man, you know what? These dudes are right. So let me start doing something. And so, and then that's when I kind of moved from just being, grading papers to starting to write more and do more stuff. So, and I like that about Joe Rogan. He admits his failures. He can be vulnerable. He'll talk about these things that can be inspiring. But then on the other hand, you're right. He can be a kook. And you can't do that when you got something as serious as he needed to take responsibility for that, basically. You got something as serious as a pandemic. So, I mean, and there are so many ways to go about it. He could have said, look, this is what the CDC is saying. And okay, fine. And I think this is the consensus view. However, for me, right, I mean, that could have helped a little bit, but I didn't. I mean, I haven't watched him in a while, but that's not the vibe I got. I didn't get that kind of nuanced vibe. So, it's very problematic.
No, I mean, he pushes back more on the so-called quote air quotes establishment people than he does on the Malones and the kooks. Because he wants to believe that he's got a clear bias.
That's right.
And if it wasn't so, one of the ways I framed this discussion for people, and I use the conspiracy theory language to try and get the point across, is like, imagine you're a foreign government. And you want to kill a bunch of Americans, if you drop a bomb on them, they're going to go to war. However, if you get like a whole identity group of Americans to question and to mistrust the public health officials trying to keep them safe, then boom, bingo, you've got tens, thousands, like a million dead Americans because they don't trust the interventions to try to keep them safe. So you don't have to drop a dirty bomb. You don't even have to deliberately leak a virus into a country. You just have to get people to be afraid of doing the one thing that'll keep them from dying. So
yeah, information warfare.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm not saying that's what happened, but hell,
I mean, but there's some evidence that Russia has been you just asking. There's some evidence that Russia obviously has been flooding our country with all kinds of dis and misinformation. I guess disinformation is you're intentionally lying or misrepresenting things, and mis is when someone shares it and doesn't know it or something like that. So yeah, there's evidence of this. All right, now we are getting up close to the hour. This has been a fun conversation, by the way. This has been really good, man. What is next for Phrost?
Oh man, I'm just gonna keep doing the things that I'm doing. I mean, hopefully, I can drag some more people along with me. So, the whole website and forums and community, and I hate to use the word movement, but started. I did not want to be the face of anything. I mean, I've been hit in the face too many times to be the face of anything. So I just kind of ended up doing it because I was better at explaining things Barney style to people. So, and there's a lot of people that need to get that message through. So, but I'm trying to like recruit a coalition of people to take part in it. Just we're open to people that want to submit articles on explaining how something is, any topic where they're reasonably an expert in that has some BS in it. The example I'm using is like speaker cables, dudes that are like selling the $900 gold plated speaker cables, which physically on a physics level, are not any better than the $20 ones you can buy off Amazon. So, I mean, there's so many ways in which people are being exploited and taken advantage of just because they don't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I would have bought the speaker cables with the gold plate.
They just don't. They're not any better. You can measure this, and so there's just so many ways in which our entire system is predatory, right? Everybody's trying to get a little bit over so that they can make a little bit extra money, because that's what you got to do to stay ahead. So, I mean, there's just so many things out there that if people were armed or, they knew how to, like, I don't know, just to go back to the analogy, to block, to defend against, then, the products out there would be better, but B, there'd be a lot less suffering in general. And it really irks me to see people being taken advantage of just because there's no way to learn everything you possibly need to know to not be somebody's sucker. It's just, there's too many things. We're way too connected for that.
Phrost, brother, this was very informative and very fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. This is great. We'll have to do it some other time.
Oh, yeah.